Okay, here's a quick rundown of the UI I'm working on as an extension of the Arduino-driven 350 scale NX-01 lighting system I built a while back. As you can see, I have the model up and running and have a live view of the browser-based app on the computer that's connected with a USB cable. This lets me do a whole bunch of things. I should note that the model runs just fine without being hooked up to the computer, and most of its functions can be controlled with an infrared remote control. For now though, let's have a look at the UI. For starters, I can cycle through all 24 lighting channels by clicking on the little round tab up here in the corner. As channels are selected, their connected LEDs flash in the model for confirmation, and I use these little squares on the lower left side of the interface as a context menu with options that change for different channels. Go through the rest of the channels here so you can see what we got. Now, channels can also be selected by clicking in the ship images over here. Either one. They're pretty intuitive. And once any channel is selected, its brightness can be adjusted with this slider input inspired by Phlox's sickbay displays. Crank it up, turn it down, anywhere in between. Very smooth. The 5947 chip is capable of 4,096 levels of brightness, so I mean that's a lot. And these the warp coils can get super bright. I mean, everything on this model can get really bright. Here's everything turned all the way up, and yeah, it's bright. It looks like more like something out of Close Encounters than Star Trek, but you get the idea. Let's go back to regular mode here. Okay. Another kind of cool thing you can do is monitor brightness levels being calculated by the Arduino in a real-time display. If I pick an animated channel and click plot over here, it causes the current channel to be monitored. You've got the waveform and then an actual indication of what the brightness looks like here. This current one is the top dead center LED in one of the Bassard collectors. Now you can look at all three channels if you want, by clicking plot all over here, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll leave it at one. And you can actually plot anything. The strobe, got the navs blinking on and off, impulse engines, which I really just have fading up and down kind of slowly. I mean, there's quite a bit of stuff going on there, but yeah, let's turn all that off. Now, oh yeah, one more thing. As you can see, none of the LEDs are just snapping straight on or off. There are smooth fades involved across the board, kind of pretty much mirroring the on-screen NX-01 frame for frame. But for now, let's just have a look at the Bassard collectors. There are three discrete animations going on within a single collector, each one applied to one of the 6 elements and the one straight across from it. Now, while we can monitor them all at the same time, we'll look at just the 12 o'clock one for the sake of clarity. With this setup, I can adjust finer points beyond the overall brightness, which I have selected here currently. If I click the lower limit button in the context menu, I can adjust the contrast of the animation by adjusting how far down that curve dips, and you can see it in the graph as I pull it down, and you can also see the contrast go up in the Bassard collector over there. And you can turn that all the way up to the point where it's just on. I'm doing nothing, but you get the idea. That's pretty flexible. I can also adjust the easing, which is essentially how smooth the curve is. If I click the easing button over here, I can do everything from what's pretty much a linear triangle wave to what looks like a sine wave. It's not exactly a sine wave, but it's pretty close. I mean, you can go way up, change the easing, even going into the negative to make this kind of weird shape that no one would ever use, but it's there if you want it. Yeah, I think it looks best somewhere right around in here. No, sorry. Yeah, 1.4, 1.3 region, somewhere in there. But aside from analyzing and emulating show footage frame for frame, I also did a couple other systems while I was at it. Let's see, here you could see the tenant controls mode taken from their YouTube video that demos their latest NX lighting kit. The Bassard collector animation isn't even close to screen accurate, but it's still pretty cool. Also notice, if I plot everything here, how the, well, you can see it in the graph and just by looking at the video, how the knabs and strove just snap on and off with no fade. Now, personally, I think the fades add a lot to the sense of scale, even though they only last a few milliseconds. I also have a Monsters in Motion emulation, which is sampled directly from one of their boards, and using a Tenant Controls nav board via the TrekWorks NX build from a few years ago. It's very blinky. So let's put it back into show mode here. And there are a number of other features, including jumping to warp and a startup sequence. I can just show you the warp real quick, even though there's no sound associated with it yet, and it really just kind of blinks off, because since I can't really make it go to warp, it's like, oh, look, it's gone. You know, you get the idea. And there's also a startup sequence, which the plan is eventually to add music and sound effects. Since it's hooked up to the computer, I should be able to sync them up exactly, which I think would be pretty cool coming through the stereo system. Now, I've really only kind of scratched the surface on what this thing can do and will do, and I'm still working on the interface, but I just thought that it'd be cool to give you guys an update and let you see what I've been up to. So there you go. Thanks for watching.